y'all, it's Lamb, and today I'm going to be talking about my favorite show from last summer, and soon to be this fall, Heartstopper.
Hi.
Prior to Heartstopper, the only show I was itching to periodically rewatch was Fleabag, and maybe some anime, and perhaps one other show that doesn't need to be named. But Heartstopper is unique for me. Within a month, I watched it about 8 times. Within 2 months, I'd read all of the comics and the books and the prequels and everything extra on the internet. I even got into the music. There was a while where I drew the little smiley face that Nick kind of casually flicks onto Charlie's hand. I drew that onto my hand for about a month, and now every time I see a blue pen. So, I'm well adjusted. I never get into the music for a show. The mixtape really had its claws in me throughout the month of May, and I know Baby Queen is going to be in like my top 3 Spotify Wrapped for the next 10 years.
Baby Queen, y'all. Baby Queen.
I love rom-coms. I love the romance genre. But usually I rewatch movies because they're bad. But with Heartstopper, I just couldn't get enough of like the energy. In a way, this video could be titled Every other adult my age was really into the gay pirate show, but I got stuck living vicariously through the tween high school webtoon. This is not tied how it's supposed to be. This has been a very long intro to discuss sort of 3 ideas that have been bouncing around my head since I first saw Nick and Charlie on screen. I think Heartstopper is good representation, well produced, and entertaining. If you're thinking, okay, so who cares? There are many people out there who don't feel that way. So this is my requiem for Heartstopper. The plot! Heartstopper, originally a webcomic on Tumblr and Tapas, was written by Alice Oseman and follows 2 teenagers, Nick Nelson and Charlie Spring. They're British, they meet at a grammar school, become fast friends, and ultimately fall in love. Each bound volume navigates to ups and downs of first love, friendship, coming out, and mental health. Nick and Charlie are framed by a warm cast of supporting characters who are going through similar trials and tribulations, without getting repetitive. Each character serves their own unique purpose in the overall story, and shows a different glimpse of what it is like to be a teenager in the modern day. Nick and Charlie actually started in Oseman's debut novel, Solitaire, following the Heartstopper protag Charlie Spring's older sister, Tori Spring. Tori is also a minor character throughout the comics and the Netflix adaptation, but Charlie and Nick were popular enough within Solitaire to earn their own spin-off comic series, as well as, a couple short stories that follow the events of the novel. There are other books within the Osemanverse, but they interact pretty minimally to the current plot of the Netflix adaptation, primarily based on the comics. It's not even really pulling that much from Solitaire, at least within Season 1. Season 2 and 3 could draw from those books a little more. I'll touch on Radio Silence later, but I don't think those books will come up too much, so no spoilers for those, no worries. I will note, reading the comics before you watch the show is also really valuable. It truly cements you in their world and reminds you that these are just kids acting out kid behaviors. I think some acting choices, particularly from William Gow, maybe even Joe Locke, can come off as a little odd, but then you just remind yourself, right, they're teenagers, they're behaving awkward, it's intentional, it's written in. And to ignore this world building that Oseman provides is to kind of do the creative process a disservice as a whole, I think. I'm not trying to preach and be you have to read the book to really understand the story. That's not what I'm saying at all. I don't think you miss anything if you don't read Solitaire, but I think the Heartstopper comic really flavored the narrative in a fun way. Heartstopper is a story about first love and the complications that happen specific to LGBT kids without making a spectacle of their stories. It's a rom-com, love at first sight, mixed with will they, won't they, and denying your own feelings, and it's putting others before yourself and getting called out because putting yourself first would actually help everyone in the long run. So why would someone care so much about a show about high schoolers and their drama? Because it's the sweetest, most genuine telling of a love story I've seen on TV in a long time. There's no overarching, drug-related plots. It doesn't really have, nude scenes at all. I love drug plots, and I love sex scenes. I grew up watching Skins, okay? Skins. But I also know what watching Skins did at my, impressionable, underdeveloped brain. Sometimes I think it's better to have shows where kids can just be kids. Above all else, I'm happy that young queer actors are getting the opportunity to tell fun, sweet love stories without having to be naked or to be put in vulnerable situations for the sake of shock value, like we saw with Skins. And if you watch shows like Euphoria and Heartbreak High, and that's what you find entertaining, I encourage you to also watch Heartstopper, because there's some themes that kind of appear in both, but Heartstopper is one that you can show your grandmother. And I think that's important too. I think having stories, especially for younger people who are struggling to come out, I think being able to show people in their lives, a show where that's presented positively can be really impactful. Also, there's a lot of bullying that happens in Heartstopper, and it's, really quickly managed. It doesn't feel like trauma for the sake of plot. It's just sort of a natural progression of the story. And we don't linger too long on, the torture of that, you walk away feeling like the characters are going to be okay. Then getting to watch Nick and Charlie and Tara and Darcy and Elle and Tao fall in love, overarching portrayal of LGBT joy and pride that I don't think gets portrayed often enough. And the whole group comes together so naturally that it leaves you dying to see where they're going to go next. I think the best way to explore the plot and the themes is by explaining what makes the show just great. The characters. Charlie Spring. Charlie is the protagonist of our story. He's in year 10 at Truham Grammar School, 9th grade in the US, and is a high-strung, chronic overthinker. We see him working himself into thought spirals throughout the comic and the show, leading him to assume the worst of most situations. Charlie's a glass-half-empty kind of guy. He over-apologizes and has a nasty habit of masking his true feelings, usually to prevent others from being upset in return. Charlie's known as a gay nerd affectionate and a gay nerd derogatory. He plays the drums and he's good at running and he loves to read. Charlie's kind of embarrassed by all these traits, almost like they make him too loud or too much of a show-off. But Nick Nelson thinks Charlie is God's gift to mankind. He's right, and is immediately smitten with him. Over the course of the show, he joins the rugby team, initially to be around Nick more, but in the comics he develops a real talent for rugby, so eventually I hope we get to see him enjoying rugby on the screen as well. Even though we fully see him quit the team in season 1. I'm really hoping he chooses to stay on anyway. Charlie's sister Tori says he's way too nice, and we learn this as a big part of his arc. The meta-narrative for Charlie is that he has to learn to stand up for himself and take some pages out of Nick's book when it comes to confrontation. Charlie's where most of the themes regarding mental health come into play in this story. My least favorite thing about Charlie is how he sort of toes around problems, but it's one of the most realistic things about him. The way he tries to repress the bigger traumatic events of the story and keep trucking is also hashtag relatable. Trigger warning, skip to the time code on the screen if you do not wish to discuss the following topic, disordered eating and mental health. In Solitaire, it's established that Charlie has suffered from an eating disorder, and this is something that Tori feels responsible. Not that she should, but she's 16 years old and kind of losing her grip on reality. Solitaire is really a whole other can of worms, but because it's so prominently established in the canon that Charlie has an eating disorder, I think it feels very sudden in the webcomic. The show, however, slips in the idea that Charlie has an eating disorder all throughout the first season. I kept waiting for a big explosion about it, and maybe that will come in season 2, but it never came, and I'm really happy it didn't. I fully thought he was going to pass out at the race with Ben, but he just shows his stuff. He goes hard. It was really refreshing. I also like how his problems with food are there from the beginning in little moments where Charlie refuses food or can't bring himself to eat, and a very casual notion that Tao suggests he thought he was eating with Nick, and Nick in turn thought Charlie was eating with Tao, which foreshadows some future problems that may come to surface in future seasons. Charlie's not eating at all. My favorite thing about Charlie is how much he loves his friends, Nick and Tori, and how he really is willing to stop the world for them, even when he thinks that they'd be better off without him. My least favorite thing about Charlie, like I said before, is that he thinks they'd do better without him, so he hides how he feels for a good chunk of the time. That's basically his only flaw. I really like the casting of Joe as well. I think he matches Charlie's energy seamlessly and really captures the kind of sweet, nerdy, sometimes catty energy that Charlie brings. I have seen so many mean comments about his appearance and backhanded compliments as well. So oh, I'm so glad that the actors are unconventionally attractive. I think even Trixie and Katya said,
I hope he's yeah, I have a unibrow. And yeah, I have huge ears. Yeah. And you know what? I might be pale. Yeah. I might have active acne. Yeah.
And that's funny. I get it. It's funny. The internet is so weird towards these actors. I almost wonder if so many people who thought the show was silly or bad would not feel that way if they'd cast a different actor, and maybe they just don't like the way Joe looks, which is, again, a crazy thing to judge a show by. And I totally agree. It's good to see people who look like teenagers cast in these roles, but there's definitely ways to say that without suggesting that these actors are in any way ugly or unattractive. Which brings me right to Nick Nelson. Most people within the Heartstopper universe brush Nick off as a rugby lad and assume he's rude and abrasive, a bro of sorts. He likes Marvel movies, Formula One, the sound felt tip pens make on paper. You've heard the audio.
I've been going out with Nick Nelson since I was 14. He likes rugby and Formula One, animals, especially dogs, the Marvel universe, the sound felt tips make on paper.
He's kind to Charlie, and Charlie and Nick make fast friends, possibly because Charlie allows Nick to be more himself. Even his mother comments that he's more genuine around Charlie, and that Charlie isn't like his other friends. Nick isn't afraid to get physical when it comes to defending others. Charlie ultimately feels guilty for this, and believes that if he could stand up for himself, Nick wouldn't be put in a position where he has to do it for him. But most of the other characters see right through this, and acknowledge that they go to school with some grade A assholes. However, despite some teasing from his peers and his own brother, Nick becomes comfortable with his bisexuality with the help of Charlie and his friends. Nick is shown to be very loving and flirtatious with Charlie, and is incredibly patient and comforting during Charlie's struggle with anorexia. I love Nick Nelson. I would die for him. I think Kit Connor is spectacular and does an amazing job portraying this little sporty guy. It's so funny to me that he auditioned for Charlie. My favorite thing about Nick is my least favorite thing about Charlie. Whenever Nick skirts a problem, he just sort of goes, yeah. And you can tell he's not sure and he's kind of uncomfortable with his body language, but he doesn't have the words until he makes a final decision in episode 8, and all his words sort of tumble out at once, mirroring Charlie's word vomit from episode 4. My least favorite thing about Nick is nothing. Okay, fine. My least favorite thing about Nick is that in the show so far, we haven't seen his friends from the comics. And we don't super see a lot of them in the comics either. I just kind of hope that through the magic of TV, they'll give me more about Christian, Otis, and Sai. I'd be remiss here if I didn't talk about The Thing. So Kit Connor kind of became an overnight sensation after this show. He was in other projects before this, but never as a romantic lead. Until this point, he had a baby face and he looked super young. He's talked about how his headshot was in the dressing rooms and they thought they had cast like the wrong guy for this role. Now, all of this would be like catnip for the normalized kind of creepy lust for celebrities, but he's in a gay show. Now, everyone who's chronically online is either, doing the fandom thing where they have to obsess over every little piece of media that exists about these actors. They have to make all the kinds of content, which I appreciate and adore. Keep doing it. Love me some edits. But unfortunately, this also means he gets the chronically online criticism that wouldn't really happen if he was in any other show or any other role. Fans feel this entitlement to know what his sexuality is. And unfortunately, they felt they needed him to come out for him to continue playing Nick Nelson, suggesting that a human being can queerbait as opposed to a company, like the CW. And if you've read Heartstopper, you would know a core tenet of the book and the show is coming out when you are ready, and how coming out is a gradual process, and it's really personal, and honestly something that isn't anyone's business but yours, and it's ridiculous to expect everyone to wake up and label themselves off the dome and fit into little boxes. A big part of the LGBT experience is kind of finding your place outside the box, so to fit gay people into them is absurd. And queerbaiting isn't something that a single person can do, not even Harry Styles or Taylor Swift. I know they're kind of like big media heads upon themselves, but still, they're human beings. Their sexuality isn't anyone's business. Queerbaiting is something that media companies do when they promise queer content to appeal to fandoms and to generate an online discussion, while never coming through, perhaps until the last episode where they send the character to super hell. All the while, they're not isolating their straight audience and stringing their gay audience along. Overall, not something that Kit Connor or any other actor could possibly do while playing a character who is LGBT, while perhaps being in the closet oneself. I think the harassment of this actor was disgusting, and Alice put it best when they said, "I truly don't understand how people can watch Heartstopper and then gleefully spend time speculating about sexualities and judging based on stereotypes. I hope all those people are embarrassed as fuck. Kit, you are amazing." Tao Su. Tao likes movies and art, sort of, and he runs a blog where he talks about all of his interests. He's basically like the classic movie dude bro, but if that guy wasn't the worst and was actually pretty cool 90% of the time. He's Charlie's second closest friend, only after Nick, and it's hinted at that Tao is kind of Charlie's only friend. They normally hang out more of a squad, though, with Elle and Isaac than as like a unit of two. Charlie reiterates that he's never been close to someone the way he is to Nick, and this probably influences Tao's jealousy over the whole situation. Although he repeats that he's not jealous of Nick, he clearly sees Nick as getting in the way of his friendship with Charlie. He also might be projecting some of his own fears regarding his crush on Elle onto Nick and Charlie, and he clearly just doesn't want his friend group to change more than it already has. Tao is also a total peacocker. Will Gao's performance is one that I think people kind of cringe at and find cheesy, and I can't stress enough, it has to be intentional. Tao is cheesy, and he's over the top, and it's really only in front of his crush that he acts this way. I find it really charming and endearing that he's a show-off in front of Elle, even if it makes him more awkward to watch and makes the viewer kind of look away. My least favorite thing about Tao is the hair. I mean, it's that he kind of has the chronic just talk about it disease. This type of character just sort of drives me crazy. Like, if he just spoke to Charlie, everything would be fine. And when he finally does, everything is. Yeah, I can't get started on this one. His hair really is egregious, though. I genuinely believe it is only done that way so that the camera doesn't draw more to him than it does to Nick and Charlie. My favorite thing about Tao is the way he runs. I think it's really funny. Elle Argent. This is the closest thing I have to their uniform, please be nice. Elle is quiet and shy compared to the likes of Darcy and Tao. She's an artist and is more than happy to keep up with Tao's blog. She says she made friends with Charlie first and that Tao came as a package deal. This is easy to believe based on Charlie's kind, friendly nature, which pairs perfectly with Elle Argent. Elle loves meddling with Tao, and canonically these two are besties and cannot cope without one another. Tao continues to buy her apple juice for the first week of the term. She's kind of shy and quiet, especially around the other girls at Higgs, but she's always supportive of Charlie and Tao. She's always pushing him to question why he feels the way he does, sort of hinting that he can be a little negative at times, without any reason other than jealousy and his own fear or insecurity. My favorite thing about Elle is that she's allowed to just be. It's said that she was bullied in the past, but we don't have to watch that, so we just get to see her growing and coming into her own at Higgs. Her story is a love story with the only complication being the fierce need to protect her friendship with Tao. We don't have to see any trans tragedy for Elle. Her parents accept her, and we never hear her dead name. It's lovely. My least favorite thing is that she was written to out Charlie and Nick to Tao. In the comics, Charlie gets to tell Tao himself, but I can see how they weren't sure about getting renewed, so they had to rush the plotline a little bit. She's not a villain, she's just a victim of TV. Tara Jones. Tara is a ballerina and a member of the school orchestra who is more composed and a little less self-assured than her girlfriend and bestie, Darcy Olsen. It's said that they came into each other's lives in year 7 and have been inseparable ever since. Tara is a side character in the Heartstopper comics who has a much bigger part to play in the show. Because Imogen doesn't exist in the comics, her part falls even more on Tara. But in the show, we quickly learn of her sexuality, and instead of her already being out, we watch her come out, and we see her assure Nick of his feelings and tell him that his fears aren't uncalled for because people do treat her differently. My favorite thing about Tara is watching her interact with Darcy. They're precious, and her nervousness is so important for someone her age to see. Understand that it's okay to not know anything at 16. My least favorite thing about Tara is that I hate that she waits until she's on a breaking point to explain her feelings to Darcy. I get it. It's what being 16 is. It's what being a teenager is. I just wish we had the chance to see those two be more open with each other, and I definitely think the trailer for season 2 is like setting something like that up. But you know, it's all what makes her human, so there's nothing wrong with Tara. I really hope we might get an episode that follows her and Darcy specifically in the next couple seasons. Darcy Olsen. Darcy is loud and talkative and funny, and she's in the orchestra with Tara and Charlie. She's a gay icon and has been out for longer than Tara and maybe even Charlie. Throughout the comics, we know that Darcy's parents are not really cool about her being gay, and at least so far, she's the only one of the main cast whose family is not really nice about their child being LGBT. My favorite thing about Darcy is how she plays matchmaker and meddles, because it's never mean-spirited, and it's just to see her friends actually face how they feel behind closed doors. My least favorite thing about Darcy is fans' interpretations of her. The actor who portrays Darcy, Kizzy Edgell, is non-binary and uses they/them pronouns. And because Darcy holds an umbrella that's the pan flag, people have decided to kind of fight over Darcy's identity. And Darcy has this line where she says, like, she doesn't know anything. But so far, in the canon, the fact remains Darcy is a lesbian. An umbrella doesn't change that. I think it would be really neat to see a character explore how sexuality and gender can change over time and how experimentation is okay. I also think it's great that Darcy's a lesbian, and she and Tara are growing more and more confident about that every day. Regardless, I really like Darcy as the resident weird girl who loves to party. The bunch always needs one. I'm also non-binary and use they them pronouns, and for a while identified as a lesbian. So I'm all for them working in Darcy being sort of like a gender non-conforming lesbian if that's something they want to do. And to headcanon her that way is totally valid. But there's also debate online about how people just never want to use the term lesbian. So I think it's important that even if you make them non-binary, don't assume that has to automatically make them pansexual. But pan-rap's also good, so maybe we'll get a different character. I think they could go two ways with Darcy next season. I think either Darcy could, explore and become more gender non-conforming, or maybe even change identities and start identifying as pansexual, or continue to be a lesbian and be a guiding light for characters like Isaac and Imogen, and maybe even Ben Isaac Henderson. Isaac takes the place of Aled last from the books, because Aled has their own plot in the book Radio Silence, a Heartstopper branch-off that doesn't really touch the main storyline whatsoever, but Alice Oseman has expressed interest in creating a movie for, so presumably this was done to further separate the Holitaire plot from the Radio Silence plot, although both stories canonically take place in the same universe. Charlie and Nick even make a brief cameo in Radio Silence. Isaac Henderson is a lovely addition to the crew. He's quiet, but incredibly funny, and if you blink, you'll miss it. He fits into the space left behind by Aled perfectly, and manages to be so entertaining in the little moments he gets. Isaac loves to read and to meddle like the rest of his friends. He's quieter than the bunch, but no less expressive. I actually didn't catch it at first, but he texts Tao and Elle and cancels so they can be alone. I feel for Darcy when she meddles. I hate Tao when he does it, but Isaac takes the cake. I think his meddling is perfect. He plays the background so well, and just like he said,
I want to believe in romance.
I think he easily could have had Tao's plotline where he's uncomfortable with everyone coupling up and just wants to be further included, but instead, he's there for everyone. He never tells Tao he's being ridiculous. He never makes Charlie feel like he's done something wrong. He's Switzerland, so to speak. He doesn't out anyone. Looking at you, Elle Tao. I'm very hopeful he will play a bigger part in season 2. My favorite thing about Isaac is that one scene where he just sort of walks in and he's like,
Sorry for, interrupting, but Miss Singh told me to give you some antiseptic wipes.
My least favorite thing is that we don't get to see Charlie confess to Isaac. We just sort of assume he knows based on that antiseptic scene. In the comics, there's a whole separate little chapter where Charlie tells Aled, how he feels, and Aled kind of assures him about everything he's going through. And I really wish we'd gotten to see a little, one-on-one time between Charlie and Isaac. Imogen Heaney. I love Imogen first off. Ally. I make edits about her. She's a preppy girl. She's Nick's only female friend. She's not like the other girls. She puts up with the rowdy boys. She's a party girl. She knows what she wants, and she's not afraid to go for it. Tragically, he's not interested, but that's okay. Rip her dog, dearly missed, dearly departed. Imogen is so cute. I love that she just explains that she feels the same as Nick and doesn't do anything negative. She's just happy they're still friends, and is happy for him and Charlie in the final episode. I hope she gets more screen time in season 2. And if you've read Solitaire, you'll know what I mean when I say I really hope they're planning on giving her Becky's plotline from that book. My favorite thing about Imogen is that she's happy for Nick and plays it cool in front of their friends, never outing him or getting mad, which would have been the typical teen drama move. My least favorite thing about Imogen, and this is no one's fault, but I'm just curious, I thought they probably meant for her to have Waardenburg syndrome, based on the white hair birthmark, very vibrant blue eyes. I think it is that Rhea Norwood just happens to have big, beautiful blue eyes. They wanted to give her a money piece, which was really in style when they were filming. Because she has light brown hair with blonde highlights throughout, it threw me off. The white money piece really did distract me. Is it to show her individuality? Is it to set her apart from Kizzy, who has blonde dyed hair? I don't know. I just want to talk. I would love to know the explanation behind the money piece. If you know any information, please give me a call at 1-800-whythemoneypiece.com. Email me. Leave a comment, actually. Actually, let me know what you think the money piece is about. Ben Hope and Harry Green. Or as I like to call them, villainous Ben Hope and homophobic Harry. Ben and Hope are the dudes that Tao thinks Nick is. Ben is more preppy and Harry is more sporty, but they're both terrible. Ben takes what he wants even when he's told no and has no respect for boundaries. He's very afraid of everyone finding out that he might be gay or bi, despite originally being the only one to show Charlie kindness and flirtation. It's clear that this was for his own wants and needs, and not because he actually cares for Charlie. He hates seeing Charlie happy, so much he repeatedly tries to ruin his relationship with Nick, because he can't imagine a guy from his friend group being happy with Charlie like he couldn't be. Ben Hope is a much more recurring role in the show, and I kinda dig it, especially because Charlie has unresolved trauma between him and Ben, and keeping Ben present helps to remind the audience of that. He's also got a part to play in Solitaire, and I wonder if they're going to explore that later in the show as well, maybe giving Becky's plotline to Imogen, and letting the nasty things he says about Tori and Charlie be revealed to everyone. Harry is a rich, rugby-playing a-hole, and sees everything he does as just
Like, it's all just banter, isn't it?
We get to see Nick and Tao sticking up for Charlie with Harry, and honestly, he's bold. I would be so scared of this kid in the year behind me who just owns me with your mom jokes, and then the captain of the rugby team who is so much stronger than me. Yikes. Harry is set up for a comeback in the comics and the books, so maybe in season 2 he'll get sort of a redemption, but he is just a kid. The idea is that if he can learn to think outside of the way his wealthy parents do and realize that he's picking on Tao for nothing and not the other way around, no redemption for Ben. Please, just send him to Hicks. My favorite thing about Ben is that Sebastian Croft is the president of the Ben Hope Hate Club. My least favorite thing is everything. I think he sucked. I wish Charlie's dad hit him with his car. My favorite thing about Harry is his taste in music. The party kind of slapped. Also, he delivers my favorite line in the whole show.
What about Harry Styles? He's pretty sexy.
And it makes me laugh every time. My least favorite thing about Harry is that he knows that he's upsetting his friends, but he doesn't get why they can't take the joke. I also really hate watching Christian, Sai, and Otis just like stand there while he does it and not really stick up for Nick. Tori Spring. Tori is Charlie's older sister. She's introverted, very cynical, and pessimistic. She enjoys watching movies and blogging on her laptop and hates reading, especially classic romance novels. Tori is very caring towards Charlie, and she's his main support system within their family, and that kind of goes both ways for both siblings. She gets along with their parents better than he does, but expresses that their mom and dad struggle to have deep conversations with both their children, but especially with Tori. They kind of assume what's going on with Charlie, but they never really talk to Tori. Tori is my favorite character in the comics. She's very witty and defensive of her brother in the best way. My least favorite thing about her is, well, Tori's was the only casting choice that made me squint. Just because Ginny Walser looks fine with the cast outside of the show, but something about the makeup and the bangs on that wig, they really show her age in a way where I had to explain to all my friends that she's only a year older than Charlie. I know Tori looks like a ghost and the hair is supposed to be kind of bizarre, but the look is a lot. The actress is only 27, and the rest are around 18. So I think Ginny was a great choice. I think she portrays Tori really well. There is a problem with her look arising solely from makeup and wig choices. Regardless, Walser embodies Tori to a T and has great sibling chemistry with Joe Locke. My favorite thing about Tori is just other things that make Heartstopper great are the solid representation. Netflix made statements about the quote-unquote extra mile that they went to make sure that the show had good representation for LGBT youth. One important aspect to accomplish that was casting characters who, quote, reflect the diverse backgrounds of the characters they're portraying. So, Elle is actually played by a trans girl, Darcy's actor is non-binary, and I think that's really good and really important. I'm not going to assume or comment on any of the actors' sexual orientation, because that's none of my business. And it's none of your business, and it's really only the actor's business. This isn't me only being comfortable with, gay people when they're fictional. In the vein of having gay actors play gay roles, we kind of are setting this standard that, actors don't get to be in the closet. They have to be out if they want to play a role. And I think that is dangerous and a bad standard to set. You can disagree, but that's my feelings on the matter. Of course, I think it's preferable for an actor who can be respectful of the role to play the role. I wouldn't super want someone who is known for being homophobic to make a lot of money off of playing a gay character, but that's not what's happening here, so we don't have to worry about that. Aside from the casting, I also think Heartstopper is just a well-constructed show. So yellow and blue are constant color motifs throughout, as are the little cartoony elements, which, call back to the comic pretty directly. I love the little first love highlights, and I think they add such charm and beauty to the show that they make me overjoyed to watch it. Those little highlights wouldn't be half as impactful without the lighting and the music. I don't know who was in charge. Hang on, let me Google. Okay, so Patrick Walters directed the cinematographer Diana Olifrova to be intentional with by lighting. So good job. And a further dip into the colors. The lights are genuinely fantastic. I found myself giddy throughout the show, just noticing the color of the screen. So throughout the first half, it's mostly, yellow and blue. a turquoisey teal, more specifically, but yellow regardless. And then Nick starts to question his identity more and more, and we add pink into the lineup, and then we dip into this darker red shade for some scenes, and that's where I get a little tinfoil hatty, like maybe I'm reading too much into it, but all my friends kind of reacted similarly. Here, just let me break down my concept of how the lighting works in Heartstopper. I think the color palette of the show is kind of like the pan flag, the more accurate primary colors, cyan, magenta, and yellow. I saw like a Tumblr post about it like 10 years ago and it rocked my world. So cyan and yellow are kind of the main colors throughout the first couple episodes, like I said, but I tried to take note every time my like cyan, magenta, yellow popped up. So we get the cute dream sequence of Nick where he's shrouded in pink, and then the next time we get pink is when he and Charlie are alone in the locker room. The rest of the dream sequences tend to be anxiety induced, so they have like these dark scribbles around the corners, and it's this darker shade of blue. Charlie's usually more yellow, Nick is usually more blue, but what really gets my goat are the scenes at Harry's party. So you have the girls dancing quite literally in a rainbow with the pride flag comes on screen, and it's so cute. And it's this big moment for Nick where he's like realizing they can do this, I can do this, we can do this.
Hair can be this.
And then you have Nick shrouded in the colors of the bisexual pride flag. And then we go upstairs and the lights are kind of pink and blue with little yellow lamps. And I think the pink and the blue are for Nick, and the yellow is sort of symbolizing the budding love between him and Charlie. And then we get the big blue light, so, it means nervousness. And then they're shrouded in the beautiful yellow light of first love for their first kiss. But every time they're in, like, golden sunlight, I'm filled with this, like, ooey gooey feelings. And the pink, obviously, means the same, but it's something about yellow. And I like to interpret the pink in Heartstopper to be more obvious moments of like complete adoration, and yellow as the sort of slow burn tenderness and the moments of like intimacy. So in the scene where Nick is picturing Charlie dealing with bullies on his own, we have that same like anxious blue light, and that's the same as when Nick is confronted by Harry about Charlie. And then later on, we have pink and blue and some yellow lighting throughout the arcade. Just further asserting how this is a story about Nick coming out. Like, Charlie's already out. Nick still has to figure it out. Tao is also in blue and with some hints of red while he's shouting. Feeds into my other theory that red lighting is kind of what they use when characters are defending Charlie. It's anger, obviously, but it's also sort of like tells you that character is really, up to bat for Charlie. So, the movie theater scene is both of Nick's colors, and it also adds to this notion that he's overcoming the blue of worry because he cares so much about Charlie. Truly, maybe I just want that to be true, so in the last episode, Charlie is wearing Nick's colors, and Nick is wearing Charlie's. And if I'm right, in the last episode, we see Nick pull Charlie onto his towel. And the blue normally signifies worry. Clearly, that moment is Nick making up his mind and, deciding Charlie is worth being scared of. So he, brings him into the anxiety with him and is like, I'm gonna be okay. Another thing I wanted to touch on that I think is super wonderful about Heartstopper is the music. It's so good. I can listen to the soundtrack and place the songs in my mind. I can see what scenes are happening. I like that I knew some of the songs going in, and they're all pretty much musicians that LGBT youth typically enjoy. I don't mind that a lot of the songs are kind of sapphic leaning. I like to think of it as like crossing boundaries. Unites MLM and WOW in solidarity, if you will. Feel free to disagree. All I know is when Sappho came on, I screamed. In episode 1, we get Colors of You. That's about Nick. It furthers this visual idea that Nick is just surrounded by Charlie, and Charlie is bringing color to his previously dull world. And every time I hear it, I get so weepy. Bella really captured Nick's essence in that song. Lovesick and Don't Delete the Kisses are about how both Nick and Charlie are unsure, but they want so badly to fall in love. Hope and Nerves all at once want me. Oh my god, want me. Oh my god, it's phenomenally used. So it's Baby Queen. Baby Queen, y'all, Baby Queen. The song itself is about her parasocial obsession with Jodie Comer, Villanelle, how she wants to be with her, but Jodie doesn't know she exists, and that's exactly what's going on with Ben and Charlie. Even though it seems so sweet on the surface, it's got this layer of fantasy, and the reality is that they're not in love, and no matter how much Charlie wants love, it's not real. Then we come full circle with Dover Beach, a song about love being deep red, and we know that means Nick Nelson time. He's drowning in Charlie's colors of love again. I can't believe I wrote that sentence. We've got Incompatible Star Signs. New favorite song. She's my Lana Del Rey. Baby queen, y'all. Baby queen. In episode 2, we start off so strong with Sappho by Frankie Cosmos. I yelled, I cried, I threw things. The unassuredness of asking, if they've read Sappho, because they can't come out and say it. Trying to be cool for the other person. I love girls. I love that that's hinting at that Tara and Darcy are gay, given the meme of asking if you listen to Girl in Red, and how that signifies gay status. But also defining Elle's shyness and insecurity. Dance With Me, Angel, perfectly used. Why Am I Like This is another standout song. I love that it says their little phrase that they say back and forth. Episode 3, My Own Person blends really well with Why Am I Like This, and I honestly thought it was like the same song continued the first time I heard it. Telephone, Lucid, Don't Leave Me, Chapter 1, Despair, Alaska, all songs that play at the party, so they don't stand out to me super hard. Still nice songs. But Clearest Blue, back with the color motifs, it's the best scene in the show. I love gay people at parties falling in love and coming out and growing up. Episode 4, so What's It Gonna Be sounds very Tegan and Sarah to me, but it's cute. Kissing in the Rain, I'm obsessed. Heart is so good. I was in a Target and it started playing and I thought I was losing my mind. It's the breakout song for this episode for me for sure. I think that it's so sweet and clearly Charlie wants to join the rugby team to prove he cares about what Nick likes. And it's not just to spend time with Nick anymore. Now it's, making room for him in his life too. And maybe part of him hopes that he can be good at rugby and he can win over the team and ultimately make it easier for Nick to come out. Episode 5. So Nothing Else I Could Do plays so quietly you can almost miss it, but then Urban Angel 1999 is so cute. I love when Tao shows off to impress Elle and her hard eyes the whole time. It's so sweet. If You Want To is also perfect for Charlie and Nick. Charlie never sleeps. And I like the way their personalities are further explained through the songs, playing in the show. It's a great start to his birthday party. Buzzkill is so good for Tao. I was like, I think I've heard this song before, and it's because season 3 of You actually starts with the same song. Perfectly utilized in both cases. I think Tao, he doesn't want to be awful, but he just can't help it. Baby queen, y'all, baby queen. Fever Dream is fantastic. It makes me sad that people only really know the prom dress song, and they kind of only know her from TikTok, because I think she has, some really good music outside of that. Paper Mache World. Oh my god. People love to do edits of Charlie and Nick to this song, but I can't not think about Elle and Tao when I hear it. And literally when we hear it in the arcade scene where Nick and Charlie are playing Mario Kart and Nick goes how do you always win? I was just born to race. Parallel to Elle and Tao, how are you so good? I was just born to kill aliens. I'm sick. They're twisted. I can't cope. Both Nick and Tao are kind of flexing their arms to their crushes during the arcade scene too. I'm ill, personally. I Want to Be With You is a cute ending. They're not really together publicly quite yet, but he wants to be. Episode 6. So Knock Me Off My Feet in the bedroom scene is so sweet and precious, and that is the Nick and Charlie song of the show to me. That's it. That's their song. Flirting With Her, that's Tara and Darcy's song. So sorry. That's the standout of this episode. Episode 7 has Bang Bang Bang, which very cute for Charlie. I think it plays really well with Buzzkill. Any Other Way makes me want to cry when I hear it. Nick's little face makes me so weepy. My friend got really excited for Smokey Eyes, but then I was really excited for Smokey Eyes. I love Lincoln. Tired played, and it was instant recognition. And we were all not this song, not this When It Hurts. Episode 8. Montaigne, that's all. I love them. I love Montaigne. This song has the same benefit as Want Me in the first episode, but on the surface, the protagonist of the song is saying they love this person, but actually the song is about being in a relationship that's not healthy. It's so Charlie and Ben. It's so perfectly used. Close to You, I know when it happens in the show, but to me, Close to You is Isaac's song. Even though we get a sweet little Tara and Darcy kiss in front of their classmates, I just can't not think about Isaac. I don't know why. Maybe that's just me. I guess we need more Isaac because I need more reasons to think about him. I love Isaac. Then we have what I think was so beautiful, which is when Nick and Charlie are separated and we have our window that mentions, the seasons changing in a sort of sad, somber tone. And then when they're back together, we have the same thing in Moment in the Sun with an upbeat, jaunty tune. Spectacular. Takes my breath away every time. Perfect utilization of music. And then ending on Belong in Your Arms, where Nick literally holds Charlie. Beautiful, beautiful. Great representation of the song and scenery. Great work, everyone. No skips. Let's get into the entertaining aspects. I think this show is entertaining beyond the topic of being well made production wise. I thoroughly enjoy some of the changes made from the original webcomic, including but not limited to the audience following Elle as she adjusts to her new school, when she's at Higgs. It really steps up Elle from a background character to main cast and gives her a more concrete feel as a member of Charlie's group, not just oh, a girl I used to have maths with. We get to actually meet Tara and Darcy before the Paris trip, so outside of Nick and Tara's history. And then we watch Tara come out rather than, have her out at the start. So we get to see her grapple with like problems that are specific to her experience as a lesbian. They mimic what Nick is going through in his hesitation to come out, but they're also unique. The line, "Do you fancy Zayn Malik?" was changed to, "What about Harry Styles? Do you think he's sexy?" That cracked me up. The whole day of play, maybe I'm biased because I went to an all-girls school and we did like a girls versus boys day with the all-boys school down the road, but it was a super big deal for us and we got really into it. I liked this as a sort of commentary on like, why are Truum and Higgs split anyway? And just like generally seeing more of Elle and Tao pre-Paris trip is, always a bonus. Additionally, Nick choosing to throw the rugby match to talk to Charlie, which was sort of the thing that made everyone think he was straight in the beginning, and now he's, picked Charlie over rugby. This is him subverting everyone's expectations. It's the primary reason he didn't want to come out, he couldn't face people seeing him differently, and then he takes Charlie's hand in front of everyone. And we know people notice because we watch Imogen smile as Nick, shows his true colors in front of everyone in their school, basically. Let's just talk about Imogen, actually. TV needs drama, and webcomics don't usually have that kind of drama. Like, the drama of a webcomic is usually based more in personal struggles within the self, not interpersonal drama between two people. And TV needs more interpersonal drama between two people. So Imogen, I think, was the perfect touch to add more, like, drama to the show. More, like, what's Nick gonna do? I wouldn't have liked it if they'd actually, like, drawn Imogen out and had him, like, go on a date with her and then do, like, all of the juggling. I would have found that really tiresome. I like Imogen. Other things that I loved about Heartstopper. The drumming transitions in episode 2 are super cool, and I love how we see how, like, Charlie feels through his drums. Every moment with Nick has a parallel with every moment with... What's really funny is that Tao says, Charlie will want to be more than secret boyfriends who kiss on the down low. And there's no evidence that he knows about Ben. So he just knows Charlie well enough to say so. The uniforms change with the passage of time, so it's just this tiny little detail, but I think it shows like the care that was put into the show. I love how the girls all have like a little item that shows their personality, like their jackets. Clothes are our best tool to show who we are, and the kids always feel like they're telling a story with their individual style. I love the little gay instances, so like Gal Pals, the Am I Gay quiz, Pirates of the Caribbean, Googling gay movies. It's all part of the experience, and I loved getting to see that on screen. And one final thing that I love is there's this moment where Nick is agonizing over Instagram and he looks at a selfie of him and Imogen versus, Charlie and Elle. It's the same photo, like the same kind of selfie, but this idea of like, if he came out, the picture of him and Imogen would kind of be the same as the picture of Elle and Charlie. Just signify friendship. It wouldn't have to mean that like he's secretly dating her and like, the things people will read into on an Instagram post. Final thoughts. If you grew up on Tumblr, you know that shows like this and like representation were all kind of wishful thinking, and everyone hoped that it would happen one day. But for the most part, all we had was, pinboard theories and raising your other half from damnation. And before Tumblr, I think I only knew gay people existed because of like The Ellen Show and Neil Patrick Harris, but I didn't really understand that people just sort of came like that. Like, I think I genuinely believed you had to be a celebrity. And even then, I didn't want to be like, Ellen. I wanted to be me. So before all else, I understood that being gay marked you, as an outsider. When I was a kid, so like 3 or 4, my mom had 2 friends who would come over frequently, and their names were Christine and Gay Christine. And I don't remember anything about Christine, but Gay Christine wore cowboy boots and had cropped hair, and her whole house was painted red, and like, I think being at her home was the first inkling that I could be different. But back then, I hated it, and really didn't want anyone to assume I was different. Then when I was like 8 years old, I remember looking at one of my classmates and adoring her. Freckles and strawberry blonde hair, and I thought she was really smart, and I wanted my teacher to sit me next to her all the time. I actively thought to myself, I don't want people to assume that I'm weird, like Ellen. And people around me would, because my bestie at the time and I were really affectionate, and like our classmates would kind of whisper about us constantly. It's a lot of pressure to put on a really young child to realize that they're different. And I have to hope future generations won't have to deal with this kind of thing. And maybe they can think that they're like Ruby and Sapphire from Steven Universe, or Amity and Luce from The Owl House. or, you know, literally any other characters from the Owl House, like Tara and Darcy. Gay people are everywhere. I'm absolutely buzzing with anticipation for seasons 2 and 3. I simply cannot wait to see more of this show. I hope the same attention to detail and care is put into the rest of the show as was into season 1, and that we can see more from the side characters, including the rugby team. I think season 1 was a 10 out of 10, and I can only hope it stays that way. Okay. Jingle bell. Jingle bell, jingle bell, jingle peep row. No. Nick Nelson.